Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic? Let's do it. What's something really weird or unsettling that happens to you on a regular basis? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Every few weeks or so, I'll be sitting around and I take a breath, and there's a stabbing sort of pain around my chest area. Only when I take a breath past a certain point, though. After a few seconds, it goes away. I always see flashing lights outside of my window. I live in the middle of nowhere. All around me are fields. No idea what it is. A lot of young kids think I'm their father. I have one of those "haven't I seen you before" kind of generic faces, and I guess I look like everybody's dad. I get hit on by old ladies all the time. When I was a server, a middle-aged lady stopped me as I walked by her table to tell me I had the most gorgeous hair she'd ever seen. When I visited my dad in his office one time, his 60-year-old nurse looked me up and down and said, if I were 30 years younger. Also, a homeless guy offered to grease my toilet pipes for a Happy Meal once. He wasn't an old lady, but it was unsettling. Once in a very great while, I'll slowly start to lose vision in one eye. A small blind spot will appear and then grow bigger and bigger until my sight is seriously impaired. I'll get real dizzy too. After a few minutes, it will go away. My sight returns to normal and I feel fine. I have no idea what causes it or why it happens. I've had the exact same dream over 300 to 400 times. That all starts at a campground with my sister, my old buddy, and one other person unknown. We're walking around the campground when we notice some chipmunks and start to follow them when we notice a tunnel going into the side of the mountain. So we decide to go in, and we find a large circular room. In the back of the room there are some fake hills, the kind they used as props on a stage at plays and such. So next thing I know, we're running and playing on the fake hills. Then we hear a train coming, and for some reason we all of a sudden know that if we miss the train, we will be stuck in there and not be able to get out until morning. So everyone is frantic and running for the opening so we can all get on the train. Halfway to it, I notice one of my shoes are missing, and I see it on the hills. So I turn around and make a run for my shoe, as the others are yelling at me to hurry or I will miss it. I grab my shoes and turn around only to notice the train and my people are gone. I get sad and wake up at that exact point every single time. That is pretty wild. I've heard of recurring dreams. I've never thought about how often someone could have a dream, but that seems like a lot. Wow, wild. Total strangers feel compelled to tell me their life story. I once went to pick up a form from a secretary in college, and I ended up trapped in there for an hour as she told me about everyone in her family who had died, people who recently became ill, and brother's drug addiction. It's always too awkward to extract myself, and I end up just politely nodding or trying to figure out the correct facial expression to make during awkward parts of the story. Similar situations occur about once a month. While driving at night, my vision isn't so great due to halos, as I like to call them, around lights, including the headlights of oncoming cars. I start to become panicky and feel as if I'm going to crash. I try to avoid driving at night. For as long as I can remember, I'm talking first ever memories, I have this anxiety about some particular texture rubbing up against my hands, and then I feel like I'm going to die. I know it sounds nuts, but the only way I can describe it is a deja vu of the past or something. I've been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, so I just chalk it up to that. It's so frustrating and happens probably once a month for my whole year. No. A couple of times a month I'll suffer a bout of sleep paralysis. For anyone else who has had it, you know it is frightening every single time. You're awake, you can't move, and I don't know if this is common, but I can't breathe. The upside is, I've heard some people have hallucinations of phantoms or ghosts hovering over them while they have sleep paralysis. so at least I don't have that shitty version. It's terrifying enough without the thinking about there's a ghost in my room hovering above me. Well, not a regular basis, but it happened twice so far, which is twice too many. My heart suddenly starts beating at about 220 beats per minute, and it just keeps doing this for several hours. On occasion, I thought maybe I was having a heart attack, or dying or something. I felt awkward and dizzy, and out of breath, so I went to the ER, where they gave me an IV dose of adenosine, which momentarily stopped my heart. It started again right after when it was normal rate. Felt really weird to have your heart rebooted. I've never been able to describe this well enough for anyone to know what I'm talking about. Every month or two I'll randomly have a weird feeling wash over me, like my head gets fuzzy and I feel like I'm going on autopilot. Everything feels less real for a few minutes. I'll also have vivid flashbacks to the other time it's happening during the whole thing, going back to when I was a child. Pinching a nerve in the back of my neck. It's happened for as long as I can remember, but it's gotten more frequent. It's always when I turn my head to the right. I feel a sudden painful pinch underneath my skull on the left side. My head automatically snaps back to face forward when this happens. It gets me really weak and tingly, and it hurts. Sometimes it hurts worse than others. Probably happens to me like once a week. The clattering on the roof and sometimes the back porch. I know it's just raccoons or possums, but maybe even one of the old feral cats can come visit. It freaks me out. The sounds of footsteps in the backyard always gets me. It's probably a deer, squirrel, fox, or coyote. Coyotes actually scare me, and since they have somewhat bold and maybe mean to be in our area during the summer. In the winters, probably a bear. Bear sounds like people when they walk through the leaf-covered ground. It's so creepy. I have a lot of sleep problems, so every once in a while when someone wakes me, I'll cuss them out and try to attack them really quickly for laying down position. Then go back to sleep and remember nothing. Like I'll be asleep on the couch. I take what sleep I can get. I have a lot of problems. My mother will come in and try to wake me up for dinner or something. And I'll yell, "Shut the... Mom? Shit the fuck," while also punching her in the face. I made her bleed once. It was horrible, and now nobody wakes me up within arm's reach of me, and I can't blame them. And all I remember about any of these incidents is waking up to a whole lot of people angry at me. This only happens to me if I've been asleep for less than 3 hours, and after a time where I haven't slept for 24 or so. But that's pretty much once a week for me because I have a hard time sleeping. It's always funny in retrospect though, and people don't ever believe me until they experience it. Any kind of camping is always fun. I woke up half a campground once. I lose sensation in my face, feeling like my teeth are numb and fuzzy. Then, it feels like spiders are spinning silk all over the inside of my mouth, or like it's coated with oil. If I am chewing something, the food becomes repulsive and I cannot continue eating it. Sometimes I have to dig it out of my mouth. It feels like my mouth is devoid of moisture, and I'm compelled to dig my fingers in and get my gums. It's still wet. It can be very intense. I've woken up clawing stuff out of my mouth, stuff that didn't exist. I am not on medication. I do not use hard drugs. This makes me extremely frustrated, even angry, ruins my mood. A depressing feeling completely ruins my mood. Sometimes, several times a day, 5 days, sometimes every few days. Sometimes it doesn't happen for many days. Waking up, it's not a normal experience for me. I experience issues with perception and getting my energy going, kind of like an old diesel truck that needs a few minutes to warm up before all the parts start rolling in proper rhythm. For about 5 minutes every morning, I will be in this half-asleep state, where my images of dreams will still play in my head, causing me to hallucinate heavily. It's usually nothing too bad. Most commonly irritating thing is when I wake up, look at my clock, and all my eyes will just show the same time as being much later than it actually is, early afternoon usually. Parts of the room will just bend and contort at weird angles, but sometimes it's really bad, where I'll stand up out of bed and then the whole room changes. It likes to turn into hallways of a high school I went to in Britain, which was a dark, depressing year of my life that still likes to star my nightmares about missing classes, even though I graduated college 8 years ago. Other times I wake up and will swear that I'm sleeping on the couch in my boss's office, and that I'm 3 hours late to starting my shift. It becomes an expectation, sometimes an adventure. There are some mornings that are pleasant, where it'll feel like I'm waking up and rolling out of a hammock onto the Waikoloa Village golf course I visited as a child. Some are funny or inspiring, where I'll wake up giggling to a one-word punchline of a joke I don't remember that led into or have a song stuck in my head, but that doesn't even realize it exists. I'm a very vivid dreamer, a heavy sleeper, and I'm just awful at waking up to an alarm. Put that together with some borderline autistic eccentricity and some cozy bed sheets, and every morning is going to be a bit of a surprise. Every time I wake up, some place different, but always end up stepping into the same shower. I think there's a term for that. I know somebody in the comment section will know. I think it starts with an A, apophobia or something like that. When you're projecting the images from your dreams into reality as hallucinations. But anyway, it's rough. Hope all's well. At night I hear voices in my head. It only happens when I'm trying to sleep. I never hear them during the day. It's like a radio is on in the background of my mind, and it slowly gets louder and louder until I notice it. The moment I realize I can hear things, it stops. To be clear, the voices do not talk to me. It's like listening in on other people talking. Sometimes it's boring life things, sometimes it's vicious arguments, and so on. Each time is different. In the end, they build up on top of each other until it feels like there's a beehive of voices in my head. I haven't told anyone about this because I'd rather not cause worry needlessly. After all, they don't try to tell me to do things, and I'm sane enough not to listen if they tried. I don't suppose anyone has experienced this. I work in the electronics section at Target. Every couple of weeks, a guy comes in with all of his money, credit cards, ID, and phone inside of a plastic shopping bag. He always has about 3 layers of shirts on, with torn pants, and dirty socks, and a mangled haircut and beard. He smells like he hasn't showered for months. You'd think he's homeless, but he's perfectly active and normal otherwise. He has a house and utilities that he pays for himself. He just never takes care of his hygiene. And every time he comes in, he's always getting a dirt cell phone. But good God, that smell. It lingered for about a good 20 minutes, even afterwards.